Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Roberts and Robertson. I am the Roberts, and she is the Robertson. And I still did not change out my name.
I did it this week. Now. I did it.
There we go. Boom. All right. Robertson. How are you today, Wendy? You look absolutely off the wall, beyond the mountains, stunning.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say. Well, I got a bit disheveled today with the hair, but I'm okay. I'm all right.
It's the natural look. It's the
fluffy look.
It's the windblown look. I've got a little bit of that too, except there's not much up there to blow around.
And may I say how very spiffing you look tonight?
Why, thank you, my dear. I was looking for my red pocket silk, and it's missing. I couldn't find it. I was going to do red because I saw, before I threw on my suit and tie, I saw you were wearing red.
Yeah.
And I thought, but like you, I do have my red underwear on. So
I have to go between what I'm going to wear on Wicked Women and what I'm going to wear on Robertson and keep them separate. Yes. And it's sometimes like, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear?
That's right. And I'm sorry, this may be the same suit I wore, a suit and tie and shirt combo that I wore last time we broadcast 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
but it was what was handy. I ran right up against the wall. I came in here looking disheveled and a big fluffy shirt on that was hanging open. And I said, Wendy, I haven't changed. I'm going to go throw on something. And this was the only thing pressed. So
a bit like Superman, like Clark Kent. You were like, and underneath was the suit.
Out the chest.
It was just like,
yes. You have no idea. I was doing a little tattooing today. Which is my new profession coming online here very soon. And the tattooing is all about doing the same things I've done for 40 years. Just a different tool and a different surface. It's skin. So when I'm out there, I'll bring my tattoo kit. You'll have to decide if you want me to do it.
I need a Scotty Roberts. I need a Scotty Roberts, don't I? So
so that's what I was doing, and I ran right up against the clock and ran out of time, and almost didn't make it in with the suit and tie. So here I am. Enough of the niceties. How are you?
Well, as I said, it's been a busy old time, and I'm plodding on day by day. It's okay. I'm tired. We had a bit of a late one on Sunday with Wicked Women, and then you sort of fall into bed. For me, I'm falling into bed like 2 and 3 in the morning, and then I'm getting up feeling like tired, and then I have one night to get better, and then Tuesday I'm back out.
Sometimes with our schedules, our falling into bed crosses over at the ends, the beginning and the end.
And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I have a break. But it's so lovely to be back here with my little podcaster hubby.
I didn't catch the last line.
Oh, my podcaster hubby. It's lovely to be with my podcaster hubby.
Absolutely. Broadcast wifey. It's amazing. And by the way, Curtis, thanks for being here. He says he usually catches the replays. So Curtis and Allison and Sandra and Carlene and Sandra and Carlene and Curtis and Sandra and Carlene and Curtis. So that's who's in the chat room right now, but there's a ton more of you out there. Come on in. We don't bite hard. And so today,
we
are talking about something that you and I have talked about many times over the years. And we talked about it this morning in great detail.
Did, yes.
And this is the whole thing. I tried to sum it up. You've got your kind of your own working title for it. And I said, I want to call this B as in B, S as in S. Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Absolutely.
And also tack it on at the end, speak the truth in love. Because you and I both, as we have compared our notes over the years, not just for this show, but and we've kind of hit on these things, touch on this lightly in some of our other shows, but we've both experienced that thing, and it can be in relationship, it can be in romance,
Right.
it can be in friendship,
Yeah.
it can be in business, it can be in anything across the board. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Why? Because we have so many people that give lip service, or so many people that say this thing over here, but they do this thing over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I thought you said that you were going to do this, doesn't. Well, something came up and I had to make a change. And it's like, do you think you could have told me? Now, I've done that to you. And I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it to a certain degree, where I said, Wendy, I'm going to be here at this time. Let's get together at this time. I'll call you at this time. And 3 days later, I'm like, I didn't call you, did I? But so what I always try to do when I do that is mea culpa. I always try to come in and go, I am so sorry. I fucked up. Can we fix this? Sorry about that. It's my screw up. Now, that's just an introduction in a few words as to what this whole hour and a half is going to be about. So, Wendy, what did you originally call this as we started talking? And I came up with the, B as in B, S as in S.
Well, when we were talking about it earlier on, I said, one of my favorite sayings, and it's also one of my bugbears, is when people talk the talk and they don't walk the walk.
Right.
And it's a very common saying. We all say it in our life in many different ways. People promise, they say they're going to do things, or, we have expectations. Sometimes we have expectations because somebody will say something and go, I'm going to do this, or we're going to do this, or this is going to happen, or, and we have that expectation that because they've said it to us, we believe it.
But they're going to do it.
It turns out to be bullshit.
Yes. Sorry, I'm futzing with my mic here because.
Are you fiddling with your mic? I'll bring mine over and
I am fiddling with my mic.
So you don't feel like,
So it's the thing is off kilter somehow. Something came loose. There it is. And it's supposed to suspend it in this carriage.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. So there we go. All right.
Poor Scotty has had nothing but distractions.
Familial interruption. Bye.
Literally none.
There we go.
So stressed.
Yes. And I love you. Bye. That's my daughter. She has to have the kiss goodbye. I'm sorry it's during the live show. You've seen my show. You've seen Familial Interruption so many times on my show. And it doesn't matter, Wendy, how many times I say it. Still happens. They just walk in.
Well, because when we do the show, you have people around you. When I do the show, I mean, I haven't got my Henry anymore, but the most problems I'm going to get is vampire, like trying to come in and do something. But that's about it.
Walk across your keyboard right in front of your mic.
He would do well. He's not here down here, but I remember the day, and that's so lovely when I get to look back at Robertson, and I get to see Henry sitting here.
Yes.
I'm so glad we have that. It's been really helpful.
What did I just see from Ricky Gervais today? Off topic, but Ricky Gervais put out a post, but then he talked about, he says, the one thing I love in my life, he said, I love dogs. He says, and I love my dog. He says, I go to the dog park, and he says, I see the same dogs I see every day, and my dog is there, and I say hi to them all, and I scruff them all up. And he says, I couldn't live without the dogs in my life. And he loves that. So,
yeah.
But back to
Back
topic.
to the topic, darling.
Back to the topic at hand. I don't like it, especially I can forgive it in certain instances. Business, it happens. Junk happens, stuff happens, shit happens, and we all excuse our friends and things like that. But there are times where there is something that's much deeper. Maybe we could, for the launching off of this topic today, is get into the deeper side of the relationship type of let your yes be yes and your
Yes.
no be no. Um, I gave an example to you when we were talking about this of I once dated a woman we had dated for 4 years. There were no indicators that there was a problem. Uh, Life went on and we did stuff together. We did the Renaissance Festival together. We dated all the time and so on. This was back about the time I had been divorced. I won custody of my kids. About 2 years into our relationship, I finally got custody, and we'd been together for 4 years. Now, it wasn't, you can do the dating. We didn't start dating till 9 months after the divorce had started, just so people don't think, oh, did you leave somebody for her? No, I didn't. And so she was a flight attendant. And I was starting to get inklings from friends around me and people, she's fooling around while she's off flying. I'd see things every now and then. I didn't like to go snooping, but, cards laying on her dresser top, that were like from Monroe or whatever his name was, saying he was a pilot, just saying, had a great time in Philly with you. Hope to get the hot tub again next time. And I thought, interesting, okay. But very shortly after that, she was gone. I was gone over in your neck of the woods with some friends for a couple of weeks. And I got back, and she had left, and she was out of town for a week doing her flight attendant thing. And she came back. We got together finally. We did the hi, haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Let's get naked and do what naked people do. Bang, we did that. I said, look, I got to go home. I got to get my kids from school. I will be back a little later. And she sent me instead a text message via one of the chat. It was Yahoo, the Yahoo chat. And she started chatting with me, and she said, I just want you to know I want this over. I'm breaking up, and I don't remember the words. Doesn't matter anymore. And I was like, what? Well, I'll come over. We'll talk. No, I don't want you to come over. And it was over. She broke up with me after a 4-year relationship online. And I didn't see her for about a month. So using that as an example, it's like, look, and now I'm going to say this in general, and I said it to her at the time. I said, if this is this serious and you want to break up after this long period of time and it's a big change, why don't you just look me in the eye and tell me? She couldn't. She couldn't do that. And whatever her excuses were, she could not look me in the eye and make her yes a yes or her no a no. It's like, just tell me. Now, that's a variation on the theme.
Yeah.
There are people that do this kind of thing where they say one thing and they enact another thing, and they aren't honest with you. They don't come forward and say, look, I'm going to speak the truth in love. I'm not in love with you anymore, or I'm not, whatever the excuses might be, the whole list of things, the bullet points, and just say, look, I got together with you because I want to end this. And people can't just be honest. They will do things which I know you've got some stories similar to this, but they'll do things where you think everything is just fine up until the moment of, and suddenly they pull the rug out from under your feet and totally change things because they're unwilling to or afraid of facing you and looking you in the eye and saying, we got to talk. Here's what this is. Let's talk about this. Instead, they'll write you a letter, the Dear John letter. I use the example when you and I were talking, and I'll give this example and then you take away with it. One of my very favorite old movies is Humphrey Bogart
Yes.
in Casablanca with Ingrid Bergman. And he's good. She's going to run away with him, and they're taking the train from Paris, and because the war broken out, he didn't even know she had a husband out there. She thought her husband was dead. They'd never talked about it, and they're going to run away. And he's standing in the rain at the train station, and Sam, his piano player and right-hand man Friday, comes up and hands him. He says, "Sir, I got this. This came for you." And he opens it up, and it's a letter from Ilsa saying, I can't remember the words on the letter, but basically, I can't leave with you. I love you. I can't leave with you. Goodbye, Ilsa, kind of thing. And his voiceover with it, when they're showing this scene, he's doing a little voiceover because he's talking to her about it later. And he says, there's nothing like being the sap standing on the train station platform in the rain, and you get your guts kicked out. And that's what he felt like. And that's what led up to the scenes that were going on. So we've all had our guts kicked out. That's not an uncommon thing. But there are so many other areas, not just the breakup. Some people are so afraid to do that, they can't face you. I understand that part. But there are so many other things in relationship and romance that happen where somebody's not being honest with you. They're not telling the truth. They're not speaking the truth to you in love. And I'm not talking about the in love part of that. I'm talking about speaking the truth out of a loving heart to somebody. What have been your experiences? What do you think about this, Wendy? You go with that and tell us what's on your mind.
The hardest thing for any of us is when, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, we have expectations, we have hopes, we have excitement and possibilities. I'm going to bring up a situation that I found myself in. And, I knew a gentleman. I was getting to know a gentleman, really, really lovely gentleman. And we would talk all the time, hours conversation, always messaging, loads of hours of conversation. And they would kind of come and see me, and looking forward to seeing them, really excited about it. They booked their place where they were going to stay.
I booked a room.
Yeah, they booked a place where they're going to stay. And no sign of any change of mind, nothing at all. Constantly feeling, you certainly look back and you think, I was blind, I didn't see it. And then just before they were due to arrive, you get the text message to say, I've thought about it, I'm cancelling it, I've changed my mind. And you just think to yourself, I'm not even worthy of a message. I'm not even worthy. When I mean a message, I mean a phone call. I'm not worthy of a phone call because, anyone can send a text message. Anybody.
Yes, anybody can.
2 minutes to send a message to someone. But I actually think it takes a lot more, especially, and I'm going to say this from a woman's point of view, and you can come up with the guys, but from a woman's point of view, guys can big themselves up. They can big themselves up. I'm this, I'm that, I can, I'm different than other guys, you'll have the most amazing time with me and I'll never make you feel like that. And so you've got this kind of potential image of someone who potentially could be, everything you've looked for and more. And then they turn out to be the biggest coward going, and all their talk did not come with the walk, because when at that moment they changed their mind, they didn't actually go, you know what, this person deserves a phone call. And I know it's not going to be an easy phone call and I'm going to feel like crap, but at least I've had the phone call. At least I've done that. You would have more respect for that person. if they did that, because it's so easy to hide behind a phone, and it's so easy and cheap to send a text message, and it hurt. It really, really hurt, because in one, your hopes are dashed, your expectations are dashed, your vision of potential has been dashed, because you've invested time, and you've invested, sometimes you haven't got time to spend, but you do invest time. And then all of a sudden they do that, and this happens in friendships. You think somebody, you think a friend, and it turns out you absolutely don't. I have been blindsided by more friends in my life than I care to actually want to admit. Mainly my best friends in my life, and I would say the women in my life that have been in my lifetime best friends have been the ones that stabbed me in the back in the most. Now, it's taken me a very long time to find somebody that I could consider a best friend. Our relationship is not an easy one, and even now, we still have our ups and downs, because we're very different people and our lives are changing. But I would hope that if she says something, she's going to do it. She's going to see it through. And up till present times, that's always been the case. Same as me. I would like to say that if I was going to say and do something, I would follow it through. Sometimes life makes it difficult, and we don't always get the opportunity to do it. But prior to that, and even after that, with other people that's come in my life as friends, don't tell me, because I'm a sort of person that will take you at your word. If you say to me, I'm going to do this, this is not going to happen, this is going to happen, then I'm going to give you that benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, what is the point of being friends? Why be friends with someone when you just think, well, I don't believe a word that comes out of their mouth. Well, I don't believe anything they say to me anymore, because I've become so jaded, which we all do.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to show is that we are human. We all err. We all fuck up. We all make mistakes. And we all have expectations. But sometimes I truly believe, if you love somebody, or you care about somebody, or somebody means something to you, pick up the phone, send a message, because your most important thing you can ever give to someone is your time. And that's what people remember the most about you, is they gave me that time. They were there for me. So I think it's very important now that, because this has happened to me so much, I start to look at myself and go, are you a bit of a mug? Are you a bit of a mug that you give people time and time again? There are people in my life that promise me this is going to happen. I'm going to do this. I want this. It never happens. Give it 6 months, give it another 8 months. It doesn't happen. And you get to a point when you go, I've given you time and time again. I've believed you. I've given my time again. Where's it got me? I'm still right back here, in the same position, and you feel like an idiot. You feel like a mug. You feel like you're used. And I think that the reason why we say walk the walk, talk the talk, bullshit or whatever, is that why do people? I don't think everybody thinks they're bullshitting. I don't think everybody thinks they're bullshitting at the time. I think sometimes they actually have every intention of doing it, or they have every hope of doing it, and they meant it when they said it. But then things happen, or they change their mind. So if that happens, be a woman, be a man, face up to it and face it head on. Don't hide between anyone can send a message. Anyone.
Yes.
To actually get a phone call from somebody who says, look, it means a lot more, Scotty, a lot more.
Yes. And I agree with that. And I will tell you something that when I say things like this, I'm not trying to say, oh, look at me, look how well I take care of this. It's not that. There were certain things that happened to me in life that I determined I would never be that person who would not face somebody if I had something important to say,
Sure.
especially if it was something important that I knew would be hurtful to that person. I would never rely on, I've got to leave a note, or I've got to text somebody
Yeah.
with bad news, or I need to write a letter and put it in the mail. No, I have always said I will. And I've said to people, there have been a couple of times where I've had to do that and apologize for something
Yeah.
that was harsh. And I always put in there, look, the only reason I'm saying this in an email or a text is because we don't have the opportunity to call. I would rather call you and share this information, but I had to get this to you. I have become a person that I don't like to let somebody down, no matter what level it is,
Mm-hmm.
other than face to face.
Yes.
Or like this, if you and I were to talk to each other on social media, I'd say, I don't want to talk about it on social media. I will, even if I'm going to text and I'm only left with that option, I would try to prefer leaving a voice text. So I can say, you can hear inflection in my voice. You can hear what I'm thinking. And I say, look, I don't want to do this way, but it's the only option I have at the moment. I got to tell you this. Let's talk later. So I can, when you are free, let's talk, because I got to do this. So, and I learned that part of it was what happened to me with the woman I dated, and she broke up with me. That was a big thing to me. And,
I,
we're guys, and guys are supposed to be like, oh, yeah, well, whatever. Damn broad, whatever guys do. And, but that taught me a lesson in life, is that I will never do that to somebody.
See,
I never want
mine began from my dad, because my
to.
dad, and I think that's why I've always grown up with it as my bugbear, because my dad would promise the earth and never come through. He
Right.
would never follow through. That's the word, isn't it? He would, Dad's going to be here. We're going to do this. We're going to, and he never did. And I think as a parent, it's very important to show your children that you are going to come through for them, that you are going to follow through, because after all, your parents are the first people in your life that you
Yeah.
actually get to see that behavior from, and learn that there is people out there that like you're a dad. If you say you're going to do something with your children, you're going to do it. And they know that Dad's going to only let me down if he really, really can't. And I think
Right.
with my dad, it was, I would wait for him for hours. He would promise he was going to be there at a certain time, and I would wait for him for hours back then we had a porch, and I would sit outside in the porch and I would wait for him, and he would never turn up, and it used to break my heart. And my mum said to him, one day you're gonna turn up and she's not gonna want to see you. And I don't think he
Right.
took it for, I don't think he took her at her word. And one day he did turn up, and I locked myself in the bathroom and I said, I don't want to see you. And leave me alone. And he tried to talk to me, and she said, I told you right from the start, this is what's going to happen. And that was the beginning, probably, of the end of my relationship. Although I still love my dad and we're still friends, and we see each other from time to time, he's let me down so many times in my life, and yet other times he's been amazing. But I think growing up, there was a lot of disappointment and hope that he would actually follow through. And I guess he didn't. He chose not to. And well, my mum, on the other hand, was always like, if she would try and go overcompensate and make up. So I think what happened is I grew up with looking at people, friends, relationships. Please don't be like my dad. That's what I think in my head.
Right.
Please don't
Right.
be like him. And when I trained as a counselor, I remember like finding that was my trigger, because I think it's the worst thing you can do to someone is to say, look, all being well, I want to do this. All being well, but if I can't, I will call you and I will let you know. Or if anything changes, I'll do that. And I think for me, Scotty, you're a kind of guy that will go over hot coals for his children and be there for them no matter what. You'll do everything you can because you love your children and you believe that the memories that they will have of you for the rest of your life are super important.
Right.
Dad was
Right.
there, he said this, he came through. Some of us don't have that, and what's happened is as time goes on, you meet people and they promise you the earth. It's going
Yes.
to happen, we're going to do this, it's like it's all going to happen. And that little girl, because that's where we have to take it back to, that little child within us, the inner child, that little child that goes, hang on a minute, I've had that done and said to me
Right.
before. And so the little child comes out in us and goes, is that true? Are you really going to come of it? And so what happens is we then start to brick the wall up.
See, and I try to recognize that with my kids. Is that if I tell them something, how many times have I let them down because, Dad, you said that you would I can't. I got a conference call I got to do. I got this or I got that. I got to get finished. I'm sorry, sweetie. We'll get to it this week. I'm sorry. The worst part is having them remind you that you didn't do what you said that you would do.
That's right.
And you didn't let your yes be yes or your no be no. And it's interesting. I called this up because I know I already made the little example of the Humphrey Bogart movie, Casablanca. I called up the little conversation, the text from the movie. And this is how that went. Why did it do that? There we go. He's having a conversation with her. Remember in the movie, she shows up after a few years where she had left him standing in the rain on the train station. And that's where the whole scene of she says to Sam, you know what I want to hear, play it for me. And he says, oh, I don't know that one anymore, Miss Ilsa, he says. And she goes, you know it, play it for me. And it's time as time goes by.
Yeah.
And Bogart hears that from across. He doesn't know she's sitting there. And he runs over. He says, I thought I told you to never play that again. And then he sees her, and you just see the look on his face. And a little later, they meet, and he's very cutting to her. And he's reciting this to her. He says, oh, I remember the last time we saw each other. Richard, dear, I'll go with you any place, dear. We'll get on a train together and never stop. And she says, don't, Rick. I can understand how you feel. And he says, you understand how I feel? How long it was we had, honey? How long was it we had, honey? I didn't count the days. Well, I did. Oh, she says, I didn't count the days. He says, well, I did, every one of them. Mostly I remember the last one, the wild finish. A guy standing on a station platform in the rain with the comical look on his face because his insides had been kicked out. And then she goes into her little thing about what happened. But the note said, Richard, I cannot go with you or ever see you again or ever see you again. You must not ask why. Just believe that I love you. Go, my darling, and God bless you, Ilsa. And that's the note. And as he's reading it, the rain is dripping on it and the handwriting is running. And I think that, and I wanted to read that for the quotes because it turned him very bitter.
Yes.
In that movie, he says, there's nothing like being the guy with the sap, he said somewhere, with the stupid look on his face because his insides had been kicked out. And I got to tell you, folks, if you're going to kick somebody's guts out, have the strength and the courage to do it face to face. Now, in that movie, apparently she had her reason for doing it that way, and that she found out her husband was still alive, who had been a resistance leader. And she finds out he's alive while she's there. And so it's an interesting thing, this kicking somebody's guts out. And you say yours goes all the way back to childhood and the disappointments that come with that.
Very much
We're
so. Very much so from my dad. And it's interesting you said earlier on, you said we all do it. And I was just thinking back of a relationship I ended. I don't tend to do the text message stuff, but I remember I ended a relationship, a very important relationship to me actually, by a text message because I didn't have the courage
yeah,
to say it to their face. And it haunted me after I did it because that wasn't me. Because I'm a
yeah,
sort of person that will face my demon and I will face them head on. And I think sometimes when we're not sure about our behavior or we lack the courage
yeah.
or we are know it's going to hurt someone and we don't want to see it for ourselves, that's or we just don't give a shit.
Right, right.
That's what can happen. And I remember when I sent that message, sobbing, thinking, what have I done? I
Sure.
felt like I'd broken my morals. I felt like I'd broken my morals. And years later, I got the opportunity to see them and have that conversation and apologize for doing that because I wish I dealt with it differently, and certainly I would have done in later years. And you know what, it's not an easy conversation for any of us to have, whether it's a
No, it's
friendship
not.
or relationship. This is how I feel, or this has happened. It's not an easy conversation and we feel like shit when we say it.
And that's very true. And I don't know. It's interesting. I read the quotes. We're talking about this, and I find, are you the same way? I find you and I are different in the sense that we express things a little differently, or we let them filter to the surface very differently.
Mm.
I find that some of this stuff is so immediately beneath the surface, and yet I'm not thinking of a particular thing that happened,
Right.
but the emotional, what do you call it? I hate to say I'm so fragile that I have this emotional damage, but we have emotional things that are
Vulnerability.
probably linked to older things. You brought up things from childhood,
Vulnerability. It's a
the
vulnerability.
vulnerability of that. And it, for instance, some of the things you and I have talked about in relationship is that um, the the sexuality between the sexes, how men need it for this and women need it for that,
Mm,
or the cuddling, or the different things that are necessary. And one thing I have found is that women will always tend to, when they're talking or talking social media
mm,
or in general with other women, they'll talk about how, well, their man doesn't have the ability to cuddle, he doesn't have the ability to show certain things, or he doesn't make the right kind of money, or he doesn't do this kind of stuff, or he's not the thing. And men are supposed to live up to that. They're supposed to take those hints and they're supposed to live up to it. Yet a man on the sexual front is not allowed to express that as a need, because men do need that particular form of intimacy. They need that because it bolsters them, it helps them, it makes them want to. And now I don't mean to sound melodramatic with this, but it makes them want to do more. They want to be that knight on the white steed, or they want to be the one that's providing. They want to be the one that does these things. But sometimes the lack of what am I trying to say? That those things that the man is supposed to do are held up as the things that he's not doing this right. And yet the man will say, well, there's these things I need that help me accomplish that, that help me make it to that. And so many of us over the years, so many people that we've been involved with don't get that. They don't get that there is that two-sided street.
mhm,
They don't get that there are the things that I must do to, and I think I mentioned it last time, that there's the Chris Rock comedy bit, which isn't really comedy. He says, it's interesting. He says that I love my children. I love my wife. We love each other. And yet, he says, and we all love each other unconditionally. He says, but what I have found, he says, is that the man is the guy, the dad, the husband is the only one that has to meet conditions in order for his love to be reciprocated. And now I'm speaking just solely from the guy point of view here. The woman has certain things too, because guys, and all of that sprouts out of my saying that there are things from my past that will come up and rear their emotional ugly heads. And I feel it right now, Wendy. I am sitting here as I'm talking about this stuff, and the whole idea of letting your yes be yes and your no be no, and it has suddenly pulled this almost like this dark veil over my end of the conversation here today on this show. I'm feeling it's almost like there is a shroud pulled over the I can't explain this very well. Maybe you can. It's I feel it. I feel it palpably, physically. I feel like I have just unwittingly pulled this dark, it's like pulling a shade down over the conversation. I don't mean to do that, but I'm trying to be as vulnerable about this stuff as possible to explain what we're talking about is that we have things that have happened to us that form the way we are.
Yes.
I say I will never do this to somebody. When my children were born, I remember I made a vow when my first children were born. And I said, mostly because of the things that have happened to me in my past, I said, I will never be an absentee father. And I took that to mean I made a vow to God. I made a vow to the world. I made a vow to my wife, to my children who were too small to even, I don't think they were even born yet. I said, I vow I will never be an absentee father. Not to cast blame on my father, who I didn't know very well at the time, but to say, I will be the positive upside of that. I will be somebody who is there for my wife, who is there for my children, somebody who will never write the love note and express my feelings. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times I've written love letters to express something. I will say I would rather talk something through, but let me write this down so you get it and you understand where I'm coming from and you have a tangible piece in front of you. I've had relationships where people have had to, the woman has had to write to me and say, I can't talk the way you talk. I need to write this so you get it. And yeah, take up with that if you want and take it in a totally different direction or pick it up where I left off.
I know what you're saying, because as human beings, as we get older, we tend to be very good at putting up walls. And we protect our vulnerability, because inside, if you imagine there's a cage inside you and it's your inner child, everybody has their inner child. And it's that child that's seen things, that's experienced things, that witnessed things. And what happens is we lock them away, right? We lock them away. And then what happens is, as we get older with adults and we have children or things happen to us, that vulnerability, that things that we said we're never going to do, or this is never going to happen, and I'm never going to experience whatever, that inner child is still in there screaming at you, going, but this hurt me, or whatever way you took it. As human beings, we're going to make mistakes, and we sometimes have to look at ourselves in the mirror and go, I did the one thing that I promised I would never do. I have let people down. I have not followed through on things I said I was going to do. I have written the dreaded Dear John. I have hurt people. I have broken their hearts, and we never want to think that of ourselves.
Yes.
But then we're reminded inside of what happened to us. And there's a very powerful picture of two children in a cage, a boy and a girl, and then you have two adults in front of them, and the cages are behind, and these children are reaching out of the cage to touch the adult because they're trying to show that actually you are that same person, you are that same child. But we tend to ignore that. We tend to not listen to that self, because we see things very, very different. I just think that, if people realized, I know the hurt that I've caused in my life. I know that, and I didn't mean to do it. I'm not a person that goes out of my way to hurt someone. I'm really not. I was never like that. I would not want to hurt anybody, but I have hurt people, and I did let people down. And I wish and sometimes we're human. We get our feelings take over, our pride, all this inner stuff comes out, and we end up saying and doing things and we think, oh God, why don't I say that?
Yeah.
And pride, let me tell you this. Pride is a killer because it will stop you from moving forward. It will stop you doing things like, no, not doing it. But, some people, when they get hurt, they shut themselves behind a wall. I do that, but I also come out from it because life's too short. But I know that wall, people say, I can hear your wall going up brick by brick. But if you know you're going to hurt someone, if you know you're bullshitting someone, ask yourself a question. Why am I bullshitting them? Why am I actually saying this to them when the other half of me is going, why are you saying that? Because you've probably got no intention of doing it, or it may not happen. Why are you promising someone something? Why do we do that? Why do we promise or say we're going to do something to someone and we see it in their eyes? Really? As a child, I can still see that young Wendy, and someone said this is a very powerful exercise I want to show. When I was training to be a counselor, they told me to go back to myself at a certain age. Can you see her? Can you see her, Wendy? Can you see yourself at that certain age? And I said, yes, I can, because they make you shut your eyes and you're grounded and you're going back and you see yourself. And they're like, what is it like seeing yourself at that age? And you start to feel all these emotions. And they were like, I want you to go back, and I want you to go back and tell her, first of all, that you love her and that she's important and everything else, but also tell her the things you want her to learn. And I remember doing it, and I was so protective of this young girl who was like 11, 15. That was me, as the woman I am today. And I thought, if only I could stop you from going to experience those things, but I can't, because that's who I am today. But I can go back and try and say, and you actually wondered, will that make a difference to my psyche? Now I've had that conversation with the inner side of me. Will it make a difference? And I think some people don't do that. Some people don't go back into themselves. They don't realize that they promise everything. They don't realize that they let you down. They don't realize that they don't want to face up to it. So either they put their blinkers up and go, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Or I've got every intention of doing it, but maybe it's not going to happen. I just think if people realize the damage, like for me, when I was going to meet this gentleman, I was absolutely gutted because I was excited. I was hopeful. There was no indication. And it was like someone took a rug from me and just ripped it out.
Yeah.
And it was like cold water just being thrown on you. And it's like, what did you expect? Why would you want to put your trust in one more human being when all human beings do, pretty much 90% of them, let you down, lie to you, bullshit you, and don't come forward for you? Why do we do it again and again and again? And we'll carry on doing it because we have that inner part of us that actually wants to believe that this time the person actually means it. This time they will come through. This time we won't be let down. We won't be bullshitted. That's what we live for.
I got into. I remember telling my oldest children, my twin daughters, who are now 32, when they were about 13 or 14, and I remember it was after I broke up with this woman. This woman broke up with me, the story I gave at the beginning. And there was a time where I never neglected them, but they lived with me. I was a sole custodial dad, and they were in my house. And my son Sam, who was at the time 3 and 4 years old, and I remember sitting with my daughters in the kitchen of the house, and there was a period there where I had women in and out of the house. And I tried to not make that blatant. So I was under the strict belief that you don't introduce your kids to a new person too soon, too quickly, until you've established something. And I had been established with this woman for 4 years. And I felt she let my kids down. And then I let myself go. I was still a good guy and a decent man. But there was women in and out of the house and in and out of my life. And there were people that they knew, some of them. And there was one point where I sat down with my daughters and I got on my knees in front of my daughters. And I said, look, I said, I need to apologize to you for something. And they looked at me, eyes kind of wide. And I said, your dad is screwed up. And I said, and I screwed up with you. And I said, I haven't been where I should be here. And I need to change. And they were very accepted. They got it. They weren't too young to understand. And they got it. And I said, look, there's something else I want you to know. I said, if there's something that you believe, you don't let anybody tell you that you cannot act on what you believe. Now, has that come and bit me in the ass a couple times? Yeah. But I said, you need to, I said, it doesn't matter. I said, even if you are the only one left standing, I said, do not let anybody take from you your beliefs and about a thing or whatever. And since they've been adults, there are things we don't agree politically. So tell me that hasn't come to bite me in the ass. But they still love me immensely, and vice versa. And I think this is and this is where I taught them at the time. I remember it was at that very same time when I'm telling them these things. I said, always, always stand for what you believe and don't let anybody take that from you. And always tell the truth and always be honest about what you believe. I said, and always let your yes be yes and your no be no. And always, in as much as is possible, speak the truth in love. Not your truth, the truth. And I think I would like to say it had a lasting impact on them. And the same for my son, Sam. And I'm still in the mode of teaching that to my younger kids now. And
which is probably why I loved my dogs so much, because
yes,
they won't hurt you and let you down.
right.
And they don't betray you and they have your back. And I think that we become, as human beings, we have to experience all this stuff for us to understand it. And we do it to people and we also have it done to us. And
Right.
we learn. That's the only way we learn. But I think why Men especially, I'm not sure what women are like, because only the men can come forward and tell us that, but gaslighting is awful.
Oh,
Gaslighting is so cruel. Ghosting is another one. Ghosting is
yes.
people run away, Scotty, because they can't handle they they can't handle the truth,
Mhm.
or they can't deal with the truth. So what they do is they run away. They hide between the walls, and they go, nope, not ready to face that yet, not ready to deal with it. So I'm just gonna pretend I'm not here, and they do, and I'm just gonna hide away. And when they're ready, they come out again, and you're like, hang on a minute, where were you? I can count the number of people that were there for me when Henry died on one hand.
Yeah.
Seriously. And everybody knew how much he meant to me. And it's like I wasn't in a fit state to have multiple conversations with everybody about it. But I had wonderful messages from so many people. But actually, physically there, hardly
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
And it's like when the going gets tough, or when the truth comes out, or when they have to face, because sometimes people don't want to face up to their it's vampire. People don't want to face up to their actual. Oh shit! I said that. Now I'm going to have to go ahead and do it, or now I'm going to have to face
Right.
up. They don't want to face their truth. They don't want to have to
Yes.
face what they've said, and they go, oh well, so what they do is they just run away, and then in times, and they just, what it's like. You look down on your phone and you'll see a message, and I'll be like, uh, how long since you actually contacted me?
Yeah.
I messaged you, and we might have spoken. I think it's amazing that you talk to these gentlemen in lifetimes, and you think they're like, oh no, it's not going to go anywhere, or we don't want you, and then amazingly they still keep your number. They still keep your number, and they turn up on
And
your
they
phone.
still look at your stuff on social media.
Exactly, and they go, oh hi, how are you? And you're
Hi, how
like,
you
hang
doing?
on a minute, aren't you the
You
one
want to
that
go fuck off.
are you the one that actually did want to talk to me, or said,
Right.
and do you know what I hate even more?
How you doing, stranger?
When someone makes the decision for you. I think
Yeah.
this is the best thing for you. I think this is the best thing
Oh
for
my
us.
God. When you told me that, we were talking, and
That hurt.
this person wrote something to Wendy that said,
Oh,
I think this is best for you and me both. It's like,
yeah.
don't tell me what's best for me.
Really hurt, because I wasn't allowed to say, I wasn't allowed to at least have that conversation. I wasn't even worthy. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, and we were talking about tonight, is because people are going to listen or watch this, and they're going through this right now. They're having had this happen to them, or they've done
Yes.
it to someone. And what we're trying to bring out, and by saying tonight, is don't do this.
Right.
Really try hard to actually realize that it sucks, and you damage people. It's you damage people.
Yes.
Be the true. How would you like it done to you?
And you
How
don't.
would you like it done to you? It really, I to wake up and find a message for you, to have your hopes dashed, to wait for your father and he doesn't turn up, especially someone like your father, to have a husband that promises you this is going to happen, this is going to change, I'm going to be here. And this is what happened in my marriage, why my second marriage went down the swanny, because it was, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here at this time, and we're going to do stuff together.
Yes.
That never happened. And if it did
Wow.
happen, which was very rare, 1 in 10. And so what happens is you stop asking and you stop believing. And all these other people around you who then promise or say, we're going to do this, or then go on to let you down, turn you into a jaded, guarded human being, that when you do meet someone who actually does follow through, who actually walks the walk as well as talk the talk, we don't believe them, or we push them away.
Yeah. Something that it sounds a little goofy or weird. some of the pop cultural things that have affected my thinking, even as an adult. Um, I remember taking my kids, my twin daughters, when they were about 3 or 4. The Lion King came out. I think most people here have seen the animated version of The Lion King. And there was the scene where Simba, grown up now, and he sees the vision of his father, Mustafa, in the sky. And he says, "Remember who you are." It echoes off. And he says, "Wait, don't go." And he said, "You said you would always be here for me," as the vision's fading. And he doesn't get a response to that. And one thing, and his father didn't do anything deliberately, he was killed. One thing I've tried to do, and the older I get with my younger kids, is I say, and it was based on that because I had a heavy emotional reaction to that. In the theater, I've got my 2 little kids, both of them sitting on my lap, leaning back on my shoulders. It's a good thing I have broad shoulders. And that hit me in the movie theater. And one thing I always tried to tell my kids is I'll always be here for you. But sometimes I have to look at that and say, am I honest when I say that to them? So I've gotten with my younger kids now, because the older I get, I say, I want to always be here for you. But at the same time, I tell them, I may not always be able to be here for you. There's going to be a day, and my kids and I talk about it a lot. I remember when Flynn asked me the first time, he's now 14, and his grandfather died. Of all things, it was on the 70th anniversary, I think, of the movie Casablanca. And I took Rainey to see that on the big screen. And the same day, her grandfather died. And we were at the house with everybody was gathered around, and he died in front of everybody. Went through a couple of spasms and he died. And I remember Flynn, who at the time, he had to be 5 or 6 years old. And I remember he looked up at me and he said something to the effect of, and I don't remember the exact words, but he said, "Will you always be there for me? Are you going to die?" And I said, Flynn, there's going to be a day I'm going to die. And because I told him, I said, I'm 45, 50 years older than you are. I'm 49 years older than my son. And I said, by the time you're my age, I am now, I said, I most likely will not be here. I said, if I am, I would live to be 104. And that's, remember, now you've heard me say it several times, I'm going to live to be 104.
Yeah.
And because I said that day to my son, I said, if I live to be 104, I will still be here for you when you're my age. At the time I said it to him. And so I tell my kids now, I try to be honest with them and say, look, I'm not always going to be here. So all I can do is give you what I have now and hopefully impart to you the best things I have to impart to you. Mm-hmm. And then within my relationship, about saying yes and making my yeses, my no's. I say, I have to be honest in my love relationships. I have to be honest in my loving relationships with my children. And all these things, this from the Lion King, what a weird concoction of stew we put together in our lives when we look back. From the things my father, who I never knew until I was older, my mother and the things that happened there, the experiences I had growing up, the loves and losses through my life. and mixed in with The Lion King and Star Trek and Casablanca and books I've read and experiences. All these things make this stew that we say, I've made mistakes, I've fucked up in life, I've I've done the right things and the wrong things, but I am going to strive no matter what I do to be a decent person and a person who strives to let my yes be yes and my no be no. Because so much of life is B as in B and S as in S. It's the bullshit with the capital B and the capital S. And only I can be the person that prevents my words from being bullshit. And that's what I have come down to, and I've come to realize. And so I don't know where I'm going with that
No, I get
exactly.
what
I'm
you're
just
saying.
expressing.
I do get what you're saying. And I think it's, I think the worst thing is when someone we care about and we know, and I think that's the worst thing, because those damage us more than what strangers, relatively strangers, can hurt us. But I think people we love and care about, or have a invested time and energy, I think when they hurt us, or they bullshit us in some ways, it hurts more, because you're like, I didn't see it coming from them. My wife, my husband, my daughter, my son, my dad, my mum, my best friend, my work colleague, or whatever it is, we didn't see it coming from them. And you know what, sometimes the worst thing is, people say to you, don't give them another chance, because you gave them
Right.
another chances and they'll do it again. When you're young, your parents always say, you know what, hurt me once, shame on you. Hurt me twice, shame on me.
Right.
And I think it's absolutely important. We hurt the ones we love, and sometimes we do it deliberately, and sometimes we don't.
Sometimes because we just feel, good or bad, subconsciously we feel I'm comfortable enough to this person that I can be a dick.
Curtis, that's so
And
true. That is so true. I think guys hold on to women's numbers. And then you have the other ones that just block you and ghost you. And you
right.
think, hang on a minute, why? Like, why
Yeah.
are you blocking me? I've not caused you any drama. I've not sent thousands of texts. I haven't turned up on your doorstep in the middle of the night being, why do we still feel the need to block someone? Aren't we grown
Yeah.
past that now? Unless they're toxic or they're dangerous or whatever. But if it's just like, why do people talk? Why do people do that? I never understand that. Why? Do you not know how hurtful it is, people that do block, to wake up one morning? I have a friend, he was dating someone, or he liked someone, and he went to bed saying goodnight to her. Everything was jolly between them. Next thing you know, he woke up next morning, she blocked him.
Yeah.
And it hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they always do it in the early hours,
I'm
because
erasing you.
to do it in the daytime.
Yeah.
It's like, you do not exist. So I press the delete button, and then they block you. And it's like, do you know what? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No.
Be a man.
I
Be a
think
man, a
the
woman.
people, I understand sometimes the need to say, look, I gotta separate myself from you for a while and have the distance. I
100%.
can't see what you're doing every day. I can't look
Yeah,
at that. And so
sure.
I'm not going to, I understand some people have a need to do that.
Yeah.
Um, let's put it this way. If my wife and I were ever to be divorced, I wouldn't want to watch where she is and what she's doing for
Mhm.
my own self-preservation. And I understand that. I wouldn't go, I block you, you swaggy cunt, and I don't do that.
Mhm.
And but I understand why that this is another thing that's come out of this that I wanted to say too, is that something I've tried to do is to always try to understand what the other person is going through. And it could be in many different types of things.
Yes.
I look at in politics, I don't like the talk in politics of, the orange man does this or purple man does that or this and that. I don't like that kind of talk only because I try to say, like with the current president we have. A lot of people want to badmouth him. A lot of people want to badmouth Trump. I look at those things, and I'm only using this as an example. And I've said I've always tried to look at Biden and say, I think underneath it all, there's probably once a decent man there. There's probably somebody who I remember at the very beginning, I said, this is a guy who lost his son. This is a guy who I know how I'd feel if I lost my son. I would be devastated. You know what that would do to me? It would change me forever.
It would.
It would change the way I am and the way I deal with people. And I look at that and I say, I've always said, I think that he is a man who got dragged into something kicking and screaming. He would much rather have retired and sat on the porch or gone fishing. And he has now destroyed, I believe he has destroyed a legacy that he once had that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I try to understand where he's coming from. Now take it out of the political realm. I'm just saying I've let it do that to me in the political realm. It doesn't change my opinion of things. It just says I need to understand why they act that way. I try to be as empathetic toward people as possible. And I try to be empathetic. Like if I disagree with my wife, I try to be empathetic. Why'd she act that way?
Well, you've picked a good topic because we have 2 general elections coming up. We have the UK one, July the 4th, and we have your one in the US in November. And we both know that the politicians, they all bullshit us.
Oh, they do.
All of them. They all talk they all say what we think we want to hear, what we need to hear to get votes. Very few of them back it up. There's a perfect example of human beings. If you vote for me, I'm going to do this. If you vote for my party, we're going to do this. No, they won't. They'll do eventually. They might do a few of them, but they'll do what's right for them pretty much.
And by the way, Curtis, I agree with you there. Biden is experiencing elder abuse.
It is, yeah.
And you got to look at that. And you say, I also look at these policies and I say, he's not a guy who is making the decisions.
He shouldn't even be in that decision.
He shouldn't be
not
there.
Fair. And it's like over here we have, as I said, we've got a few more days. The Conservatives, the Labour, Reform, Liberal, Green, are all going to come together. And it's like you watch them on TV, you listen to what they're saying. They promise this, the other one promises that. I'm going to do this. And you sit there and you go, no, you won't. Because not one party pretty much over the years has absolutely come through again and again and again, because they don't. And yet we still vote for them. Or some people go, do you know what? I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to vote for people anymore because I don't believe in them, because I've been so bullshitted by them. There's an example of what bullshit does to people. It makes them jaded. They don't believe in anything anymore. So they stop doing it. I saw a TikTok the other day from a lady. You're on TikTok. I'm on there, not as me, but, we're on there. And there was a lady and she was saying, I'm not going to love anymore. I'm saying goodbye to love. And I am sick and tired of being lied to, fed bullshit and let down and had my expectations. So I'm just not going to do it anymore. And I thought, how sad have we become?
Yeah. And I will tell you something. You tell the story of that woman, and I've been there before Rainey.
Yeah, me too.
I said, I am never going to get myself into another relationship. I will most certainly never get married again. And I remember I spent the first 6 to 7 months of my relationship with Rainey at arm's length.
Yeah.
I pushed her away and I said, I'm never going to enter into a deep relationship with this woman because, and I was honest with her. I said, I can't go there. I'm not going, I won't blame you if you walk out because I can't go. I'm not going there again. And she was like, well, I'm okay. And she stuck it out. And there was a point where I said to her, I'm sorry for the way I've been. And there is a song I listened to that I don't even know the whole meaning of the song. It was, what the heck is the actor's name? I think he was Australian, or is Australian originally. Hugh Jackman.
Right.
In the superhero movies, plays Wolverine. But he's an amazing, versatile actor.
Yes, he is.
And he can sing.
Pretty
and I
hot
saw him
too.
And what?
He's pretty hot too.
And he's hot.
Oh.
And he was in the movie, The Greatest Show on Earth.
Brilliant movie, yeah.
Brilliant movie. And when it first came out, I don't want to watch that. But I watched it, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Does he play? This tells you, I don't even know.
He plays Barnum.
Barnum. And there's this movie, and I don't know exactly what the song is about, although I know things around it where he had let his people down that worked for him. And he sings this song From Now On. And it starts in a bar room. And he has lost everything. And he feels he's let these people down.
Yes.
And he's let his wife down. And he says in the song, I don't even know the lyrics, but look it up and listen to it. He sings this song, and the chorus breaks into From Now On. I'm not going to be this person. And this is something that I told myself. I remember the song didn't exist at the time, but I said to Rainey at the time, I said, from now on, I'm not going to be this way. I'm going to be this person. And I'm going to set out to be. It's like I told my own children, from now on, I'm not going to be this way. And that has been I think the deciding factor for me when I say, am I going to let my people down, or am I going to be the person who is straightforward with them? And I let that, maybe to a fault sometimes, be the governing factor of who I am and how I act. And it's not that I don't understand people that will not let their yes be yes or their no be no, or that will write you a letter or an email. It's not that I don't understand them. I try to put myself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from. I'm still hurt by those people. I'm hurt by those kinds of actions. But I have just simply said, because I've been hurt that way, I will not do that to you. I will not be the person who does that. So I think all of that to say, I think we have the ability as people, and Wendy, I know you very well. I know what you're like, and I know what I'm like, and I understand where you come from. And there are things we let our experiences dictate how we will be, and we can either be let me put it this way. I think, Wendy, and you know this about me, I think I am a very dark person. I think I can put on the facade and be the bright, amazing type of person that I want people to think I am. And yet I operate in the dark an awful lot. And I think the only reason I bring this stuff up is I can talk about all this stuff in this topic we're on today and be bright and sunshiny, and here's what we do. And yet I am who I am because I am very dark. And if I let that darkness govern me, I would be a dark, evil, mean-spirited person. And sometimes that slips through. Sometimes I'm an awfully mean-spirited person. And sometimes I think I need to stay in touch with my darkness because that helps me not be that mean-spirited, evil person. It helps me say, from now on, I won't be this way. And I will never be that person that is that way. Because I want to catch myself before I get that way. Because it doesn't matter what I've gone through. What matters is who I am now and how I act toward you. And you will have to forgive something here in me tonight. Right now, and I wouldn't say this other than, it's like saying, I wouldn't talk that way, but I'm drunk, kind of thing. And I will tell you right now, this is dumb and it's stupid and I'm letting things out I normally wouldn't, because I don't know if you can tell, I'm sweating. I am, my blood sugar has obviously dropped very low.
Yes, you need to get some sugar in you.
I got to get some sugar in me.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here. No. I've got to get some sugar in me, and it's loosened my lips. It's almost like I am my inhibitions have dropped. So I'm probably saying things I wouldn't say in the ways I wouldn't say them. Forgive me for that.
Listen, the dark side of us we all have a dark side to us. And I think that we have to tap into it and we have to accept that it's part of us because it makes up our character. Some of us don't actually want to look at our dark side because if we do, it makes us not like who we are. But I do absolutely that you are a fantastic person. I've known you for many years. We've both got dark sides. We've both been to the dark side of the force and back. But I think as a whole, we all try to follow through. And I think, if anyone is watching this tonight and
keep talking, I'm going to stand up and walk over. I can still hear you. I'm going to walk and get
your sugar.
To drink. Hold on. I'll be right back.
We don't want him passing out on us, do we? I think it's really important that if anyone's listening and watching this tonight and they know that they talk the talk and they don't walk it, or they are hiding away under whatever thing they've told themselves in their head or wall, etc. I think it's turning around and looking at yourself and actually facing yourself, because sometimes we are our own worst enemies, we are our own demons, and actually going, I shouldn't have said that. I need to face that. I need to be truthful. I need to walk the walk. I need to talk the talk, and I need to stop bullshitting myself as well as bullshitting everybody else. Because sometimes I think we bullshit ourselves more than we actually bullshit other people, because we keep telling ourselves it'll be fine, this is going to happen, and actually we don't want to face up to the reality that this may not happen, this may not occur. And that's why I think it's good to be in touch. Did you get your sugar, by the way?
I do, but sadly the only thing I've got down here is I don't want to interrupt what you're doing.
No, you should.
This is chock full of sugar, but it also is it's strawberry with a little bit of cheers.
This and the other. But as I said, sometimes I think we need to face ourselves and realize that we are our own worst enemies. And also, we get hurt by those that we love,
Yes.
and we hurt those that we love.
That's
The
why it
best
hurts so much.
the best thing we can do is just actually face up to it and actually and face. Look, I know I said this. I shouldn't have done this. I know I'm going to hurt you, or I had every intention, but whatever it is, I don't want to do this now. But I think you're
Right.
amazing, and I think you deserve to hear this from me face to face. God, I hate the internet, because in some ways the internet has made it so easy to actually hurt people and bullshit them even more. But also, the internet's also made it easier to find out you are being bullshitted too.
Yes. And Keith, thank you for that. Sometimes looking in the mirror is the hardest thing to do.
100%.
Isn't that true?
I hope everyone's taken something from this tonight. It's been a really good show, Scotty.
And I am sorry. I had to apologize for that. I'm sorry. I got to get the sugar in me. And the closest thing I had, and I'm a little shaky when I get up, so I can't walk upstairs at the moment.
No, you've
But
got to get sugar in you. You should always keep
this is a drink that is loaded. The reason I held that up, it's also loaded with a little THC. So I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to get my blood sugar up, and at the same time, put my little high on. So.
And I think the most important thing is, like, when next time, keep some sugar or something down here just in case it does, because I don't want you going.
And I generally do, so I apologize for that.
No, don't be silly. These things happen. It's been, I really hope that people can take, people watching now, whenever they watch it, because we're well aware that, they don't always. This show might be watched in 6 months, 6 years, whatever.
Yes.
Whenever they watch it, they realize that, being true to yourself, speaking your truth as well as the truth, and being truthful to someone else, and being kind as you can, because it costs nothing to be kind, even if you have to be blunt about it, is really important. And it only takes a couple of minutes to actually do that. And, how many times as us men and women going to do this? We're going to let someone just keep bullshitting us before we actually go around to them and go, don't kid a kidder. Don't bullshit me.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Barbara says it was a good. I'm going to put my glasses on for a second because I can't actually read it. Barbara, it was a good show for me. Thank you, Barbara. Curtis had a great time. That's great. I'm really glad. Thank you.
I chug apple juice usually, Carlene, and it's all upstairs, and there's orange juice upstairs too, which I will hit. But I needed a quick fix.
Yes, I get hypoglycemic, and if I don't eat, I get shaky.
Yeah, my blood sugar, I'm feeling it now. It's probably down in the 40s right now.
So anyway, listen, let you go and get your sugar, and it's been an amazing show.
It has been, and I appreciate and thank you for letting me get a bit. I don't want to be maudlin when I bring those things up, but I is something. If you haven't learned anything about me by now, folks, and you, Wendy, know me especially, is that I've got so much stuff that lies right below the surface.
That's right.
That it's like, if I want to be honest about these things that we talk about, sometimes I'm going to open a door that is going to let out perhaps a little bit more than I thought of when you and I started talking about this offline, when we're talking about what are we going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mean to be that way to be maudlin. I mean to be that way so you can see that what I say sometimes is meant to be very genuine. And I might be, I'm talking about it is just.
It's important to be genuine, and you are genuine. Yeah. And it's like, we are going to talk about topics, and we have done that scratch the surface and bring up what's really there. And you know what? That's a really good thing, because bringing it out means it needs to come out.
Right. Yeah, there's something there.
But I want you to go and get your sugar. That's
really important. I will. I'm already better. Trust me.
I know.
By drinking that's going to get me a little. It's going to give me a little high, but at the same time, it's bringing down my blood sugar already. So it's a good thing. But Wendy, thank you for
Thank
everything you had to say today.
you so well.
Um, Thank you for allowing me to say some of the things I wanted to say. I hope that everybody here who's listening to this gleaned a little something out of this. And when we have those experiences and those things that happen to us like this, it's for a reason. And I think the reason is so that if we don't learn something by those things and take them on and learn how we ought to be in our lives, and we've not learned the lesson from it that we were supposed to get.
I
And
mean, as human beings, we tend to big ourselves up. Oh, I can do this. I can. Don't do that. Don't do that if you can't follow through, because people will start to see you for who you really are and go,
yes,
you're full of bullshit.
yeah,
Don't follow through. So you know what? Don't big yourself up to say this, that, and the other when there is a possibility that you are going to change your mind, can't do it, or something happens. Just be yourself, because if you can't be yourself, who are you going to be?
right. And by the way, Curtis, I want to say thank you for saying that you've got the Libra 3. I've got the Libra 2. And um, the sad thing is, it's a little thing, Wendy, that I put on my arm. I have to. It's got a needle on it, and
Yeah, I've seen it.
you put it on, and it reads through a Bluetooth onto my phone. Tells me my blood sugar. But the last two I put on, the last two I have in this particular prescription, both of them went out within 2 days of each other. They're supposed to last 2 weeks on my arm.
Wow.
So I have about a month worth of things that of these monitors that
Mhm.
went out in 3 days period. So I've got to call them and get them to send. This just happened yesterday. So I've
Well,
got
you
to
need to
call
be.
them up.
You've been so busy today. You've been running around doing loads of
I've
things,
been
right?
busy.
You need to take care of yourself. I'm going to give you the speech. You need to take care of yourself and watch your sugar levels, and don't burn yourself out, mister, which is what I do, is what you do. But it's like there's only one of you, there's only one of me, and we're special.
Yes.
Special.
And Curtis, you're right. They'll overnight me replacements. So thank you for that, Wendy.
You're
And
welcome.
I think I do take pretty good care of myself. I just there are days where it hits you and you go, whoa. Like right now it is 5:30 in the evening. I realize I haven't eaten anything all day.
You
And
need to
that's why
go
my
and eat.
blood sugar's low. So you get busy sometimes and shit happens. So um but thank you for that.
And it's been a lovely show. Thank you so much I've really enjoyed it tonight. And
I didn't mean to make the end of the show about this, so
you
forgive me
didn't,
for that.
but the thing is, it could have happened to me, because sometimes when I'm
Sure.
doing my shows, I start to get really shaky. And what I've learned now is to try and keep something, because when I'm on this with you, I'm in a very different role. When I do
Yes.
Wicked Women, I'm the one that's doing this, that, and the other, and so I get shaky. And I actually sometimes I've done the shows and I'm actually shaking because
Yes.
I need to go eat, and I'm like, I've got, and so I'll just have it with me now. But it's like, and you're kind of like, I'm just gonna eat it off
Yes.
off camera. But it's important. Your health is important, and you know what? It's good for people to see this, because at the end of the day, whenever they watch it, it might be what they're going
That's
through.
right. It might be what you're going through.
Absolutely.
So, Wendy, thank you for everything
You're
today.
welcome.
I love you. I love
Love
you
you.
deeply, and I appreciate what you bring to the table.
Likewise.
And folks, I hope this was all helpful for you. All right. Yeah, I know I got to go get sugar because I'm stumbling on my
Yeah,
words.
go. Thank
So,
you, everybody, for coming here tonight and joining us on
yes,
Robertson. We will be back next Tuesday,
we will.
10 o'clock, 4 p.m., and another, scintillating topic.
Yes. And so, everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. And as I always like to say, live long and prosper. See you next time.